Spin rack, please. Here is what we will be opening today.
I found it.
No, spin rack. That's Kabuto. One mommy has, the spider.
Okay.
We are trying to get the last of ourselves settled up here.
Spider rack.
This is for today.
I keep it. I keep this.
Yes, you definitely keep that. This is what we made last week. Oh, keep it up. Easy, buddy. So this is what we made last week, but we are going to open up this pack today. Whoop, let me see. Right here. Maybe we'll get some ideas for what we're going to do next week. Are you ready, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the pack he picked out of the ones that we have. I've been trying to collect them. It's getting a little bit harder to find them. People are trying to sell them for like 2 and 3 times their value, so it's kind of getting to be kind of hard to do. All right, buddy. Nope, you got to do it right here. Just a little bit more forward. There we go. You can put it in my hand.
Here.
Girder.
Fun.
Girder, Vinipede.
That's mine.
Yes, they are all yours. I'm just kind of putting them here. You can put it down there then.
Ooh, I love
Wow,
that
that's
one.
a cute one. Here, let's get that to Mommy. Mommy, I like that one.
So cute.
That's mine.
Cute. Oh, look at that one.
Ooh, a lot of good ones.
Yeah, cute.
Rocket.
A fan. An apple. Drippling, huh?
Wait, this one. Big
Yeah.
turtle
I come up
apple.
with so many ideas, you know?
Like big
I suppose.
Turtle, like big turtle apple.
I think there is one. It's like hydrapple, I believe is what it is.
2 is next.
Yeah, yeah, we'll find that one later. But it's funny, that looks the same as that.
Chips.
One is mine.
There's no way that that's some kind of weird misprint. Ooh, Zapdos. This was the guy that was the big one in some of the first generation, so that's kind of neat.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's him.
He says it's crazy.
that's crazy.
Ooh, I like
A cute monkey.
Yeah, you keep this.
Yeah, Mommy, keep that so she can scan it later. Did you get any that you really liked? Which ones did you really like?
I use a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you could have them all, but I'm just curious, did you like any of them a lot? Here, move it down this way. No?
I keep a lot.
Yeah, they're definitely all yours. All right, you go ahead. Take those. Run off. Off with you. Go on. Have fun. And we'll make a pin out of this later. I'm not even sure who that is. I'm so far out of touch with Pokemon that I just don't know. But today's plan is going to be making this guy. But we're also going to be making it super tiny. Probably about the same size as my mice. Yes, you can have your spider rack. There you go. He loaned me his last week's Pokemon just so I can show you guys. But that was about as much patience as I can muster from him. Yes, Cat B. The intention is to make this. And I'm not saying their names. I think he called it a howdoor. I'm not sure how he pronounced it, but we're going to try and make it about this size. Depending on what happens with that, I might make bigger ones. I've got most of it cut out and ready. I'm really not sure what's going to happen. I have a few thoughts on how I'm going to put the legs together. But since it's so much smaller, there's a lot of things that are going to be different. And stop yelling, please. Yeah. All right. So my plan was, oh my goodness. Everyone's just barking and yelling. I'm going to do a few different things here. I don't think I have enough spare thread already attached, so I'm going to have to cut a new one. What I'm going to start off with is I'm going to attach the snout here, the brown part of the snout, to the back of the head. I'm going to do that as a preliminary piece. And to do that, what just happened? That's weird. I could have swore it cut differently. Okay, so basically, the idea was to either make the face of it, the snout, and then attach it to the head, or make the snout and the head as one piece. I think it's going to work better if I do that as one piece. So I'm going to show you how to do one of the techniques that I use for attaching shaped pieces together. Normally, all you have to do is attach just 2 ends together. Vance, stop yelling, please. Yes, I know. So normally, like for example, the back of this, because it's going to have a slightly odd shape, but it's also pretty standard, I could just sew right along the back here. Basically just follow the line. Vance, stop, please. Yes. Now, because what I'm going to be doing is attaching the snout to the face, to the head, and it's got this weird shape to it, I'm going to have to do something different to make sure that it holds properly. Let me see if I can find the right sides. Here's the front. I'm not even 100% sure how I cut this because I think that this is what I've got it cut as. Yep, that should be about it. Now, anybody who's new here, one of the things is that I am not making a pattern that I have perfected. I have not spent hours making prototypes of this, trying to figure out how to make it just perfect. Instead, what I am doing is a first run live based on the cartoonish drawing that I've done. And then I make a paper pattern based on my experiences, what I think it's going to look like. Sometimes I can fold the paper to get it to look about right. There's a lot of little things that I've kind of learned, but the point is to kind of show that you don't have to worry too much about being perfect with these things. And what I'm doing here is I believe it's called basting. It's spelled different than I would have expected, but you essentially run a straight stitch, just in and out, in and out. This is not a stitch that would hold if you were to try and only use this stitch, but it's enough to get the two ends to line up, and it's really useful when I have a lot of shape in the two lines. And as you can see, there's this kind of wave that takes place, so it goes up and then back down, and the opposite side of it is just rounded. So in order to try and get these two shapes to kind of line up, I just run that stitch straight across it. It's something that if I cut right here and then pulled at this knot, it would slide right out. But what it does is it holds it in place so that when I run it through the sewing machine, it doesn't separate. It also keeps me from having to try and put like 20 pins. I would have to use so many pins just here, 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 here to get it to follow that shape. Now, let's go ahead and give that a quick sew. I'm going to make sure that this works. Now, with this one, it's going to be about keychain size. So again, usually I make them larger, something that can be cuddled with. And I might still do that with this same one later. But I wanted to do something a little bit more simple today, honestly, partly because I was running behind, haven't been sleeping. Then we went to the library and colored and did some rock art for my son. It's summer break. He needs to be able to have some fun too, right? And let's see, did I do this one backwards? I really hope I didn't. Nope, I didn't. Okay, that should be fine. What I'm trying to make sure is that I get the fuzz going the direction that I imagine it being pet. And I imagine petting along the snout. So I wanted to make sure I got that facing the right direction. So from end of the snout backwards. Now, once I get these put together, I have a few theories on what's going to wind up happening with the different parts. I think the bottom of the mouth is going to need an extra piece, but I'll be able to find out once I sew the two of them together, because I can sew all the way across, all the way from the bottom of the snout around, and then I can sew the head and down. And what will happen is I have a feeling that because of the way that it's shaped, that it will not round out, that it won't round across the bottom, but instead we'll have that shape on the bottom. We'll have to basically make a new wedge, just a little underside of the snout to get it to look right. Working a little bit smaller like this kind of gives me a few benefits of the mistakes show up less, but also when I have to fix something, it is a much smaller mistake. If I was making this the same size as I've made all the other plushes, I would have definitely made the underside of the snout. But doing it here will kind of give us a good chance to find out. Once again, all I did was run a very simple, straight running stitch right across the back so that I can roughly attach them. But you can see that's what it would look like. And because I did that stitch, now when I go to sew it, it's going to be a lot easier. It's because it's already taken that shape. Additionally, being this small, a lot of times with this fuzzy material, and the smallest size, if you start sewing, the corner here will sometimes push down and get caught up in the feed dogs or just won't follow through the boot. So I like to leave the previous one on. That way, once I get the thread started with just a couple back stitches, I can actually use this to pull it through to help guide it since the thread is still attached. And that is a very helpful thing to do. I learned to do that a lot when I was doing my mice. And it's not as important when it comes to the bigger pieces because you've got a lot more space to work with. But if you look here, this entire head is sewn together. The body, the arms, everything is machine sewn. So when you have so many small parts, having something you can use as a handle to kind of guide it through is extremely helpful. So if you're working really small, it's something to keep in mind. It took me some habit to get used to because I used to just cut off the piece and then start again. Well, after I finally got to the point where I wasn't doing that, it helped out so much by keeping the previous one on. I am actually going to have to sew just a little bit more at the bottom of the jaw here. I missed it when what happened was I cut the basting piece just a little bit too short. And because of that, the thread started coming undone. But it looks like this one worked out okay. And as you can see, you can't even tell where the basting stitch was. Even if it wasn't for the fact that it was the same color, it just disappears into it. And if I try really hard, yes, I can see it. See, there's the basting stitch. And as you can see, I can just pull it right out as an example of what I was referring to. See, completely gone. But it's just enough to hold it in place. And it's really helpful when you're starting to do a lot of sewing. I don't like doing it when I don't have to. I used to do nothing but that. So anytime I would connect anything like this, I would do that running stitch along it. And it ensured a good stitch and followed the pattern, but it felt like I had to sew everything twice. And that was not something I was really a fan of. Okay, so the next thing I want to keep in mind is this tail. I'm just going to do a little nubby tail, but I'm actually going to sew that between these two pieces. So it's going to go right inside here, actually facing in. So what that means is I have to cut and sew that tail up so I can actually fit it in there before I sew these. So that's going to take just a moment. I did not make a pattern for that because, again, working this small, some things like that are real easy to kind of just make adjustments for. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and just cut a little wedge out. I'm going to fold it in half so that I can have both sides of it. Now, I will sew across here, and I'll give it just a little bit of shape, and then I'll right side it out so that I can see if it did what I wanted it to do. See, I want a little bit of a curve at the top. Now, I know that because I'm not making a pattern for every inch of this, and because even if I did, that's an untested pattern, there's a whole lot of improvising that I do when I make these guys every Monday. If you are wondering why I'm not saying the word of what I am making, but it is pretty obvious based on, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Today and over the last couple of days, I have seen that whatever company it is that they have put in charge of ensuring their copyright has just gone crazy on people. Just started kind of making sure that people are getting everything they've got taken down, even people who are not monetizing it. Like I had this artist that I follow on TikTok, and she does these beautiful hand-painted binder covers. Well, she just got shut down on Instagram, probably a couple of other places where her posts are getting taken down. And what they're saying is that if she does not change her content, her entire profile will be banned. So there's a lot of people that are going through this whole thing, and it makes sense. It is copyrighted material. I know that. That's why I'm making it so different, because it is not the same thing. It is simply inspired. And as we saw from Power World, there is a difference, and there's only so much that they can do to fight some things. So maybe they'll come after me, maybe they don't. Maybe I tell them to shove it, maybe I don't. All right, now, I want to make sure that I leave an opening. If you've ever made any kind of, oops, what did I do? Oh, I ran out of thread on my bobbin. Well, if anybody's curious on how to change your bobbin, I'm going to be showing you how to do that now. So here is my bobbin. One moment, let me do some adjusting on my camera here. I I think I can do that. I think that's enough for you to be able to see. And let my camera settle just a little. So one of the things I really am trying to do when it comes to this Monday night process is I'm showing people that you don't have to be a master at sewing in order to get things to look like you want, to have fun doing these. But the truth is, if you just start, I am absolutely sure you're going to fail. But every time you fail, you're going to learn something new. And every time you learn something new, it'll make the next one a little bit easier. So I run the thread. There is a diagram at the top to show how to do both the sewing and the respooling. But there's basically a little wheel, and I wrap it around the wheel, put it into the bobbin, and then I put the bobbin in, and when you slide it over, that's engaged the needle. This engages the bobbin. So all you do is you press on the pedal, and it spins this and reload your bobbin. Now, what I also like to do, I've seen people do a lot of different things where they roll that extra piece across, but I just cut it off. So now I'm just going to have to fill up my bobbin. This was one of the easiest things for me to learn as far as how to do it, but it took a couple tries to make sure that I was doing it right, because what would happen is the thread would get underneath, or I wasn't pulling it tight enough. It wasn't that it was difficult, it was just that there was a slight number of things that I had to adjust for. Now you'll see that as this gets full, it pushes this knob. And when it pushes the knob all the way over, it will automatically stop itself. Just like that. Now it's stopping, it hasn't fully stopped, but that's close enough. I don't need to worry about getting every centimeter of thread on here that I can. All right, then once I get done, this is another step that I had to learn the hard way. I didn't even know this was a thing. So let me readjust my camera a little bit again. Now, you want to make sure your needle is all the way up. You can see right here, just a teeny tiny bit. Let me make some adjustments. There we go. You can see right here that the needle, the hook on this needle, I'm not sure what the mechanism is called, is all the way at the top. You do not run your thread through the same wheel on the side here. There's another spot for this. Now, each sewing machine might be a little bit different shapes, but it's going to be roughly the same things. Now, what I used to do is I would just run it through, pull it down and put it in the needle, and I thought I was done. What would happen is there was no tension. Somewhere in this mechanism right here, there is roughly a spring. We'll just imagine it looking like this, holding the thread in place, and the thread goes between it. Now, if you just put it in there, it goes on top. What I've learned is I have to press the thread down here to hold it in place, right up here where my thumb is, and then I have to pull tightly and let it slightly slide through where my thumb is again. It puts enough pressure for it to put into whatever's holding it in place, the spring, the clamp, whatever the word is. Because if it does not go into that, it does not pull properly. You'll sew an entire project and find out that much like the running stitch earlier, you can pull your thread right out. And that is so aggravating. I finished so many projects only to discover the whole thing would come apart because I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know anything. And then I couldn't find any explanation for what was happening. I just tried different things until I happened upon that, and it fixed my problem. So while I'm not an expert, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of little things that you can change that will help out. And that's one of the things to keep in mind. We'll call it tension, but I don't know where in the mechanism it's referred to. The bobbin itself, let me show you this real quick. The bobbin itself has a screw as well. This screw can come loose or be tightened, and that adjusts how much the thread feeds through the bobbin. So this is another thing that you're going to have to tighten and loosen in accordance to what your needs are. Not everything actually has a bobbin. I have got another sewing machine here somewhere that is, the bobbin just drops into a little slot, so it does all the work for you. But if you have an older one, which my understanding is the older ones are better, they need much less maintenance, then that's something you're going to want to keep an eye out for. All right, let's get back to sewing here. All right, I've got, what I was doing at this exact moment is I was sewing across the face, and I was going to sew down to here, and I was going to stop. And I was explaining this at the time. I'm stopping right here at about the neck. Actually, I'll probably stop about here where it's flat, giving myself about 3/4 of an inch. And what will happen is that's enough space for me to right side it out. And once it's right sided out, I can actually stuff it from that point. So let's go ahead and put this head back together. Once again, doing the back stitch, just a few stitches. Now, since this is so small, I am working really close to the edge with very little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not tolerance, allowance. I think it's allowance. It looks like my needle's fine. Yep, seems like everything's flowing. It's just moving slow for some reason, and maybe that's because it got caught up. Okay, so I just did a back stitch. Now I'm just going to move it over. I'm going to find my tail, which is right here. My original plan was to cut that off as soon as I got started, but got distracted by having to do all that other stuff. And I'm just going to right side this out. Just a little nub of a tail is all we're after here. Again, because of what we're doing is not meant to be a perfect pattern, not a perfect design. I have a lot of leeway to kind of play with things and practice and try a few different things. And then worst case scenario, someone's like, you know what? I want one of those, but can you do this? I can make adjustments. Because up until now, everyone that I've made, I've just kind of left it as is. I didn't adjust from my drawing. I've got some of these that I've made that look nothing like I had sketched. And I've got some that looked exactly like it. So it's kind of a game almost of seeing how close I can get to my drawing. And it's a lot of fun because I don't have to worry about being perfect on it. Now, because of the way I've got this shaped, I actually do have a belly piece and a neck piece separate. So I'm going to sew straight down just a little bit, and I'm going to stop because I don't know where it's going to go. Normally when I make a pattern, if I make a tested pattern that I work over and over again to make sure it works, I'll put little marks on where I need to stop things. So keep that in mind whenever you're making your own plushes. The more you can go on autopilot, the better. So you add little lines, little notches, anything you can do so that you don't have to do any kind of guesswork. This might be the most I can do right now with this piece. So I don't have any extra pieces that I'm putting together right now. Normally what I would do for the legs is I would actually sew the legs into the same way that I did this tail right here. But because it's so small and I'm not sure how I'm going to do the round parts on his feet, I think I'm going to do those separate, and I'm just going to do an entire little hand-stitched piece onto it. And we're going to see what it looks like. It should look like I want it to look, but it may not be one of those things that I do every time. So let's see. I shaped this flat at the top so that it goes right underneath the jaw. We're going to do a little bit of testing, just a few pins, a few things to see what it looks like. I think that this is going to pull it down, but I'm not even 100% sure. I might just have to, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to have to put an underpart of the jaw. My original thought was I was just going to sew all the way to the end here. But I realized that would not leave a wide enough space. And then I started thinking maybe I can line up the jaw with this bottom piece here, the top of it, I guess where the neck goes. But that's looking to be a little bit wide. So maybe let's try this. Since, again, this is just a test version. This is a quick run. We're going to do it, see how it happens. If it fails, it fails. I'm going to sew it in just a little bit more. Now, I think if I can sew it in just enough, I can use the bottom of the brown jaw to line up here. And I think maybe instead of worrying about sewing that there, I'll just hand stitch that later. So we're just going to line that up. And I'm going to start basting right about here. That's just running this straight stitch thread right on through it. Again, it's meant to be the chest, and it's supposed to start right underneath the jawline. There's a lot of little things. I don't anticipate it to go straight to the middle. Like normally, depending on the circumstance, I would sew all the way around to the middle. But in this case, I want it to sew a little bit short. And the reason is because the bottom of the belly is going to be a separate piece as well. That way it's got separate shapes instead of just one long piece. And the reason I do that is because when you do one long piece, it does its very best to stay flat. Yes, it's going to follow the curves, and yes, it will. When you put the stuffing in it, it's going to take some shape. But the more shape you actually give the material, the more curves and definition you wind up getting in your piece. This is one of the few ones that I haven't put any kind of wedges into it to shape a piece. But that's, again, because I'm working so small. I wanted this to be kind of keychain size. I thought it'd be really cute to make something like this as a brand new idea. And if people are like, you know what, I love that guy. Can you make that dog as a bigger cuddle buddy so I can have one? I will definitely do that. But for the time being, I make these as keychain size so that you can literally wear them as a keychain. I've got a little metal piece on the back, but I also have them set up so that you can put a clip on them. So you can wear it as a hairpin or a clothespin, and you can wear it around with you absolutely everywhere. So basically, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. What'll happen is if I do this pattern right for this dog, I'll be able to do the same thing and put a little strip across the belly, and then something like this, a little gator clip slides in, and it goes into your hair. And you can wear them around on your head. And the same thing with a clothespin. You can carry it around and walk around with it all day. And I've got longer ones as well. So depending on how much hair you have, how much space you want it to be, how you want it to sit, it gives you a lot of options for wearing these around. And I thought it'd be really fun to make one of these guys in that same kind of idea. All right, so now I've run the basting all the way around. I even backstitched once so it doesn't come out quite as easy. You can see how short it came of the center. When I do this side, it'll do the same thing. Do that real quick. And you can see, you'll be able to see how much shape it takes just by having separate pieces as opposed to just one that takes the whole bottom side. Now, I know that there are going to be times when you want to make things with as few pieces as possible. When I try to make something that I do sell, I do my very best to make it as much of it machine sewn as possible, because while I do feel confident in my hand stitching, it's not as fast. It's definitely not quite as strong. There's going to be a lot more error that occurs as far as if something happens and, like, say, example, your kids are playing with it all the time, you're playing with it all the time, and if it breaks in one spot, the hand stitching doesn't hold as well as the machine stitch. With a machine stitch, you can tear a couple seams, tear a couple pieces of thread, and it won't completely come undone. Now, if you look and see, I've got an entire bottom here. This is all going to be the bottom of it, what he sits on. And that's going to fit right there, just like that. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stitch all the way across this and then this one. I'm going to see what happens with the underjaw, and I may hand stitch it. I may cut another piece and put it in there. We'll kind of see how that goes as I finish it. But getting this part done will be a little bit easier. So if you had needles in there, you'd have a lot of needles. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Pins, not needles. You'd have a lot of these pins. I mean, they're not small, they're not big. It's not something that normally gets in your way. But if you had a whole bunch of these, you're just going to have so many points. You have to take out the pin. You have to avoid stabbing yourself. All these little things that make it a little bit harder. But with that basting stitch in there, I don't even have to worry. I just follow that same line. And it's definitely worth doing, or definitely worth knowing how to do, so that you give yourself just a few options. Okay, so that is all the way to the top. Excellent. And again, with something like this, I can always just hand stitch to make some corrections. It's not like hand stitching is a bad thing, but I do my very best to make things as well as I can. And I just personally feel like it's not the same. It just doesn't feel like something that I would be as secure with. With my son playing with it and I can fix it anytime, great, okay, I can do that. But if I make something that goes to somebody else's house, I don't want their children or even them to be playing with it, cuddling with it, and then within a week, after they've had just enough time to fall in love with it, it fall apart. And because I'm very afraid of that happening, I do my very best to make sure that I don't. It probably seems a little bit goofy, but at the same time, I'm sure it also makes a little bit of sense. Like, I want to be a reliable person. I create this stuff for a living. I am trying to do more. So if I start giving myself a bad name as the guy who makes things that comes apart real quick, then all I'm doing is hurting myself in the long run. Plus, it just makes me look like those crappy companies that just really don't care. They'll make something that's going to fall apart in a week so that they know that you'll replace it. And I'm just not that dude. I've talked about this before. My mother was trying to help me transition from art for the love of arts to art for business. She even bought me a book that was basically titled something like that. And what it was telling you that you have to accept that it is business and that, yes, money is the goal, but that doesn't mean you have to abandon the love of it. You just have to accept that there are certain things that you can't just give away. You can't stop doing. And if you love something you do, it makes it easier and makes it something that you can become passionate about and make stronger and make better. But you have to make that balance. And I'm doing my very best to make sure I do stuff that I love. For example, these fan art pieces that I'm doing. And then helping people. Like, that's another thing. If anybody is ever in here and you see something you want to know how to do, I'm working on making patterns for everything. I say working on. I haven't sat down and done it. I'm way behind. I'm constantly working. I literally work between watching my baby, which of course is part of my job as a parent, and trying to make time to do as much art as I can and trying to make sure I fill orders. So I haven't made too many patterns. But the patterns I have made have let me know that I can be successful at it. But the thing is that I am trying to say that if you have questions, some help you need, even if I don't have an answer for you, I might know enough stuff to get you to the answer quicker. And I will help with anything that you need, especially if it's something that I have designed, or if you are interested in something that I make that you want to get for yourself, but you want to get a custom version of. I have no limitations as far as I'm aware. I will make it. I will try. I will fail. I will continue to retry. And if I can help you do anything, I will. So if you are interested, just send me a message. If you have a question on how to do a thing, or if you want to see me do a thing, I am definitely happy to do that. It's all part of the whole loving what you do thing. All right. So if you have been watching, I just did another basting stitch, a very simple running stitch to hold a shape of two materials together, since they were a little bit more complicated than straight lines. I am now going to sew the belly on, and if I am lucky, what will happen is I'll right side it out, and I'll have basically the exact shape that I need for my puppy here. Yes, I am just calling it a puppy. I've actually been put on live restrictions before because I said the trademark name too many times, and they thought I was trying to sell something. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm only using it because that's a reference here. So I am avoiding that as best I can. Another thing to keep in mind, I would like to point out this. What I'm making here is a goofy version. So I've made goofy versions of just about all of these so far. At different times and different shapes. This one failed so hard that I had to make a Mimikyu version of it. And that Mimikyu version turned out really cute and fun. What I'm doing is I am purposefully drawing these how I imagine a grandmother who knows nothing about them, but their grandson said, "Hey, would you make this for me?" and showed a picture. And then the grandma had like that grandma memory that says, "Okay, I know what it looked like, but not perfectly." And they kind of run with the idea. Or like if your son drew it and you're wanting to make a plush version of whatever your son drew. My thinking is that it makes it a little bit more fun when you could just kind of do your own thing with it and make it goofy. But what I can do is I can do a different custom versions of it. Say you want a different type. Like, for example, let's say you liked this, but you wanted it as a water type. Or, just as another kind of explanation, somebody asked for one of these, but they specifically wanted it to look like that creature crossed with crumpled up newspaper and a chihuahua. So I gave it the chihuahua leg. I didn't fill the collar and the tail, but I instead made that with fabric and I crumpled it all up so it looked that way. They even had a sketch that this is roughly what the face looked like. So I found a way to put the bangs in it. So basically, if you have these different versions of these things in your mind, and you're like, you know what, I would love it. I'd love a creepy version. I'd love a fire version or electric version. That's something I could do. I enjoy the idea of making something for somebody. So if you have some options, some ideas, feel free to comment. Feel free to send me a message. We can talk about it. It doesn't have to go anywhere, and there's no obligation. So if you talk to me about it for like a week and then you disappear, I'm not going to get upset. Maybe you changed your mind. Maybe the world changed your mind. Any kind of things could have happened. All right, let's see if I got enough space in here to right side this out. It's such a tiny little opening. Because it's small, it usually isn't a problem, but I usually prefer to have much bigger of an opening to kind of get these through. Now, with my fluff, they all come with chopsticks. So it turns out to be really easy to use to kind of get things right-sided out. I just have to get a good amount of it through so I can start pulling. This is definitely not the hardest part. So it just looks a little bit more difficult because of what I'm doing at this exact moment. But when you're making your own patterns for your own plushes, you can make adjustments. You can figure out where you want the opening to be. For example, a lot of times with this kind of shape, I would have left the belly open. I think part of it was I didn't think about that right now because I'm working so small. But it is another option. You don't have to leave the opening anywhere in particular. In fact, I prefer to leave the opening on mine in the least conspicuous place possible. So that way it becomes less obvious when you have to close the stitch up, and it makes it easier to hide it, makes it easier to feel like your plush is really alive and not stitched together. And just to be clear, if you like your plush to look stitched together, do that. There is nothing wrong with that at all either. Hey, we got a little tail. This is going to look kind of like a Dachshund, I think, because I picture the stout body when they're sitting on their legs and they've got that fur body. But I think that that's what this is going to kind of look like until we get the rest of the parts put on. But that's not too shabby. I mean, yes, it definitely looks like a Dachshund. But let's see. I'm going to get the fluff in here. Eek. Okay. Yeah, see, that hole is so small that it's going to be a little bit harder to fill. Not impossible, just I made it a little bit harder on myself than it needed to be. Like I can't, it's so small I can't even put my finger into it, which is usually my bare minimum. And now one of the things you might be thinking is I could always put the key ring in that spot. Well, unfortunately, the key ring would need to go right about here. And usually what I do, much like with this plush here, is I sew the little metal loop right into it. Here, let me go ahead and dig this out real quick. You can see that little metal loop? I sew that right into it and makes it very secure. I couldn't say that you could swing this around with reckless abandon or that you could play tug of war with it, but I'm so secure in the way that it's put together that I feel confident that people could put it on their backpacks, carry it right around as a charm. So that would need to be done right about here. But again, this was part of a test run / untested version. So there's a few things that are going to be a little bit different. My son's probably going to laugh or probably be upset that this one's so small. So there's a possibility that what I'll have to do is next week make a bigger version of it, which would be kind of fun because then I'll have the big and the small one we can put next to each other. One could wear the other one as a dog charm or dog collar. Dog tag. That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, I'm sorry. I need to read more. I haven't had time to read in so long. My English is starting to fail me, which is funny because that's the only language I speak. I should really be a lot better at this than I am. I mean, I can speak forever, but I used to have such a better vocabulary, and it's because I haven't been able to read in so long. Right now it's summer vacation, and this is my son's very first technical summer vacation because he's going between early Head Start and kindergarten. So this is the first time he's been home for these months since he started school. Of course, when he was a baby, I was too worried to leave him alone, and I fell behind on my art stuff from that. But having a kid is weird, man. All these things that that take attention. Because when I go to create something brand new, it takes me hours. And not only does it take me hours to make something brand new, but I've got to focus on it. And I was so scared that I would forget that I had a son just 3 inches away from me, that I would neglect him or forget to feed him or anything like that, that I just kind of fell behind on all the creations I could be doing. I never found a balance on it until he was old enough where I didn't have to worry about him suddenly not being there. So now that he's about to be 5, he'll be 5 in July, I've got a lot more confidence that he's not just going to roll off a couch and suddenly be paralyzed. And I know it's horrible to say it like that. I'm just saying that that's how scared I was, overthinking these kinds of things. So I couldn't think about art projects in the same way. It was almost impossible for me to do a thing. But now I'm so happy to be able to be working on art again while doing something that he loves. So if you have kids at home and you're thinking to yourself that you're kind of tired of their everyday playthings, or you don't want to spend the money on like an $80 plush that's going to fall apart just because it happens to be something they like, well, maybe you can start making your own. Yes, it takes several hours to do and it takes a lot of practice, but my son actually picks the plushes that I've made over the corporate versions of them, over the official licensed ones. And in the middle of the night, when you're watching your son try and sleep and he rolls over and throws away one of them to grab one that you made, it kind of feels really good. So if you need help learning to do something like that for your sons, yourselves, your nephews, your cousins, hit me up. I'm more than happy to help you learn. Plus, it honestly is fun. There's a lot of aggravating things that can happen, but this is overall such a fun thing to be able to do. And when you're done, it's not like with a lot of art projects where you just have a piece of something at home. Yes, it's great to have oil paintings that you can look at any time. And I do oil paintings. I love to oil paint. But it's also kind of neat to have something that whenever you are feeling it in the middle of the day, you can just cuddle with it. Watch a movie, do something special, and have your little cuddle buddy. Or if you're somebody that has a lot of issues with like being in public, if you get nervous, you make your own plush, you give it a squeaky toy or maybe a sound device inside of it that every time you squeeze it, it talks to you. That makes so much more fun knowing that you made it yourself. And it doesn't even matter how goofy it looks. In fact, sometimes when it looks goofy, it feels more special. Anybody who knows what this is will know what the goofy version of it is. So you make your own and you have a lot of fun with it. And it starts its own conversations. Of course, if you don't want conversations because you do feel socially awkward, that is a little different, but also your choice. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to go ahead and stitch up underneath the jaw first. A lot of times I like to leave the opening until last, and this is where my actual opening is. I leave that till last just in case I have to inside it out, fix something. Maybe I'll find out that along one of my seams I missed some stitches and I don't want to hand stitch it, or maybe I've got to undo it so I can do something else. For example, if I were making this as a bigger one, let's say I was making it about the same size as a normal teddy bear, these legs would actually be sewn in between this piece and this piece. So right here at this seam. In the past, doing that exact step, I have forgotten to put the leg in. So what I had to do is right side it in, undo these stitches, put the feet in, and then re-sew it. And that's why I leave the closing part until last. It's one of those little things that I do for myself because I know that I make mistakes, and it gives me a little bit of an extra space to fix my mistakes. And I'm not saying I do that because I plan to make mistakes. I'm saying I'm doing that because what I'm doing right now is so improvised that I have no idea what's going to happen. And it's just better to kind of make sure that I keep myself safe. Because I can tell you right now, it is so aggravating to have to fix any stitches anyways. But if you have to undo things that you thought were finished and then immediately undo more, it just starts piling on. Now, that being said, I want you to keep in mind, don't do anything more than what you want to do and don't do anything less than you want to do. These are your plushes. Whatever's easiest and more fun for you is always going to be the better option. And one cool thing is that as you do some stuff like this, you'll find that other people will like it. And that kind of feels neat. Start doing your own plushes, and then suddenly you have people from Australia ordering your little mices, your jester mouse. And you wind up making all kinds of different ones. So I've got a Starry Night themed one. This one's going to be a goth themed one. I've got the little spider in its ear. And that's just the materials. I do all these different things. I make princesses. I make fairies. I've made basically zombies, tooth fairies, all kinds of different things. And you just start to have your own fun doing whatever you want with them. And if you have enough fun with it and people start liking it, start making your own little bit of money out of it. You find little ways to do a little bit more, have a little bit more fun, go to these fairs and events. It becomes more fun as you go. And I'm saying the word fun a lot because it's important. I learned a long time ago that jobs don't give a shit about you. And because of that, it is better to have fun and have a little bit of struggle than it is to have a lot of stress and nobody care about you. And I can tell you right now, I've met a lot of people online that have been more supportive of me in something like this than I have ever had at any job, no matter what promotion or friend level I had. There's never been a job where people have been more supportive than the artist communities when you find the thing that you love doing, and they love watching you do it. All right, I think that I got a little bit of a tangle in there. I'm going to try and pull this tight. There we go. There we go. Now, in case you're wondering, after you tie your knot in your closing stitch, what you're going to do is you're going to actually feed your needle right back in where the thread comes out. You can see if I can get this. So the thread comes out right here. You're going to put your needle right back in at pretty much the exact same spot and then pull your needle out at a random place. And what happens is you pull it just a little bit tight, saw it off. Now the end of your thread is on the inside and you don't have to worry about it dangling out. Makes it look a lot cleaner and a lot nicer. All right, so that looks like we actually have a pretty good shape. Here's our dog. If I were to make a cute version of this, other than this goofy version, I definitely would turn him into a Dachshund. I'd probably tuck the legs completely in so it looks like the fur is going over the legs. But now he sits. It actually kind of looks like a duck too. Like a little rubber ducky. Okay, so here's my plan. Oh, see, that's another good reason for not closing it up. I knew I had to put the eyes in there, but I completely forgot. I actually have very tiny little eyes I'm going to try and put in, but my intention is I'm actually going to put the skull on first. Now, when I put the skull on, I'm also going to want to put the ears. So the first thing I want to do with that, you go ahead and get a couple pieces of material. The ears are probably going to be a little bit big. Oops, that's the wrong color. The ears are probably going to be just a teeny bit big. I'm not sure exactly how small I could hand sew them or sew them with a machine. Let's see. If I were to do this the way I wanted, it would probably be maybe about as big as my thumb. I think that my finger, that should be okay. That's what I'll do. Is I'm going to do a few pieces that are about as big as my finger. So let's see, how do I want to do that? It's going to be a little bit easier if I, instead of cutting 4 pieces with that shape, like horseshoe shape, the same as the end of my finger, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to make sure I have enough room to sew that on both sides, so a little bit extra. And what I'll do is I will sew around where my finger is and then cut them loose. So let's go ahead and cut this. Trying not to cut my hand because that would suck. All right, now, all I'm going to do is, again, ad-lib. This is just me running with the idea that I have, kind of putting it together, seeing what works and what doesn't work. A lot of times when I do the bigger one, I do actually draw out each piece. Like I would normally draw that out on a piece of paper so that I could repeat it again in the future. But for this, I think this will be just fine. They don't even have to be the same length. Again, look at that. It's kind of derpy. I got one up, one down. It doesn't even matter all that much that they look the same. But what will happen is when I sew this, no matter what I do, it's going to have some loss. So if this was the line that I was cutting, that means that I would be sewing right about here, which means I'd have all this material and I'd wind up with a piece that's only that big. Do you see what I mean? Now, instead, I'm going to be sewing along the line that I drew. So even when I fold it in, there's going to be a little bit of loss because the material folds in on itself. You know, when you sew it flat and then you bring it right side out, see how my fingers kind of have to curve around like this? That's going to happen with the material. So you're still going to have just a little bit of loss. I'm planning for that to be part of it because I want it to be about the size of what that loss will represent. Now, when I get this done, I'll just show you after I'm done. My intention is to just cut out the skull. And if you're wondering, hey, why'd you pick a skull? It looks like a skull to me. I don't know if that's technically what it is on the official version, but it's fun to me to think of it as a skull. And if you look on my feed, you'll actually see that I have posted a digital drawing that went from this to a creepy version of it, and I made it a human skull in the creepy version. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I spent way too much time doing the creepy version, and that's because I was actually having fun doing that. Not to suggest this isn't fun, but the idea is that I need to do actual work, and I was like, oh no, I got to finish this up. I'm taking up too much of my time because I have an entire event coming up. Next week, I have a local fair at a restaurant. It's not a restaurant. It's like they call it the Lot. So it's kind of a gathering spot. Sometimes they'll have food trucks or have a little art events and music. So I'm having an event there and I have to make so much stuff for that. And I am trying my best, but then I realize, hey, you just spent 8 hours drawing something that you never had any intention of doing anything with. So I got to responsibly kind of stop myself, which is unfortunate. But it is part of the way of things. When I want to make this successful, I have to make sure I keep myself in line. All right, so real simple, real quick ears. And you can see that they did change shape. They are still a little bit big. That just feels like it's too big. I might be able to use this for the foot, so I'm not just going to throw this away. But I really feel like that's just too big. So let's try one more. What I'm going to do instead is make it about the size of my chopstick and see how that looks. I can still use these for the feet, so I'll just cut them shorter and then put the rounded parts that are supposed to be like the cuffs. But we'll cut it a little bit shorter and we'll see how that looks for the ears. And if it doesn't work this time, what I may wind up having to do is just hand stitch it, which is not the worst thing. It's just not quite as clean looking, so I usually don't try to do that. I'm also usually a lot more cautious with how I cut my material because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm wasting a whole bunch of material. I am super cautious about that. There's my ears. I want it to go down. Let's see. We'll draw this. I might give it a little bit of extra space when I sew it, but that should be enough to kind of get me started. Now, the thing about this is I also have to keep in mind that since I have to right side it out, I have to have enough space to be able to shove the Q-tip through, not the Q-tip, the chopstick through so that I can push it back out. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious, give it a little bit of space so that it's the tiniest bit bigger than what I've drawn. Just to kind of give me a little bit more cushion. Now, when I put these in, normally if I'm sewing two pieces together, I would just put that right in between. In this case, I am definitely going to be hand stitching on the skull. So I don't have the same amount of worry for where it is because since I am hand stitching, I have a lot more control over it. But it also means that it won't be quite as secure as what I'd hoped. And that's part of what I had mentioned before, not to try and repeat everything over and over again. Even though I know people are coming and going and seeing different things, I just figure there's some of that, too much repeating is just too much repeating. And it drives me crazy too. So I'm doing my best not to be super annoying to you guys. All right. Now, when I cut it, I have to make sure I don't accidentally cut the thread. Not really a big deal, just something you want to keep in mind. I am cutting it really close because it's so small that I don't have the space to leave that allowance that I normally would on a bigger piece. And let's see how this works out. I did cut it as close as I could, though. Hopefully it's not so close that it starts to fray, but we will find out eventually. All right, now you can see this is both sides sewn together. All I'm trying to do is get the chopstick to start pushing it in. And then that's it. Just a real simple little push. Sometimes, depending on the shape and the size, that does become a little bit harder to do. I got kind of lucky with both of those. And what do we think? Is the ear still too big there? Because if it is, I'll just hand stitch it and I'll use that as the feet. Does anybody have an opinion? Do we think that this ear is still too big? It definitely has a different feel to it. I mean, even if I cut it down so that it's a little bit shorter, maybe if it is that short, it might not be a problem. What do you guys think? Do you think it being this short would be okay? Kind of has the right shape. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch right across here. Come on, you can move. I'm going to do the same thing with the other ones. We're going to make it really short. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to cut the excess off. Hopefully being this short will help just a little bit. Now, the reason I'm having to sew this excess, sew it like that, is because if I were to just cut, that means that all the thread that goes along these lines would be severed, which means it'll be so much easier for it to come unsewn, to come frayed later on. And that's something I'm trying to avoid. And let's see here. Oh, I should have left that on so I can see where I sewed it. Okay, there it is. Okay, and as an example, I'm going to show you. I'm going to right side this out, and you can already see that it's coming undone just a little bit because of that. See? There's no back stitch, there's no extra thread, and if I were to pull on this and just keep working on it, that's eventually going to come out. But I don't have to worry about that because I sewed it closed. So I think being that size that this will work. I think that's okay. And even if it's not, for next time I will know better. Now, what I'm going to do to make it a little bit easier on myself so I don't have to hold these in place, I'm going to do just a couple quick hand stitches to hold them in their spot. Stab right there, take some of my thread. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to do any more machine sewing. I probably will for the feet, I guess. I forgot that I'd put this over here. So basically, if I am hand stitching, I am controlling everything where it goes. I can stretch the material. I can slightly put some slack into it. There's a lot of things that you can do to kind of fix mistakes when you are hand stitching. But also, because I'm hand stitching, I won't have a free hand to hold those ears in place. So to make it a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to put them where I want them, right about here. And I'm going to do just a very simple little back stitch. Just a couple stitches just to hold it there. The back stitching it's going to be a little bit harder because of the amount of how small it is and how close to the stitches I am. But that's okay. Dang it. My knot is off center. And because it's off center, I don't want to have to deal with trying to figure out how to get it to Well, doesn't look like I'm going to have that option. Watch. It's going to get stuck. Oh, oh no. Okay. Okay. I just have a whole lot of stuff in my way. I'm getting to be a tangled mess here. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Okay. There we go. There we go. Fix that. You get in place. There we go. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hand stitching a skull across the top of this. So I am just running some stitches to hold the ears in place. Ooh, almost stabbed myself in the thumb. That would have been horrible. I don't know if anybody of you have ever done that. Not only does it suck to stab yourself in the meat of the thumb, honestly, it's crazy how much that hurts. But if you accidentally get the quick of your thumbnail, oh my God, that's just the end of the day right there. And yes, I have done that. It is absolutely horrid. If you have the option to never do that, I promise you want to never do that. All right, see, here we go. You can see that because my knot got off center. Oops, verify, please try again. I was off by a fraction of an inch. There we go. Because it was off center, there's a little loop right here. But that's okay. I'm just going to tuck that in. I am trying to put my ears where I want them to be. And I want them to be a little bit towards the center, the top center of the head. And the reason for that is because when the skull goes on, it's going to be from about here to the center. So I want to make sure that the ears are in a place where they're actually going to look right when I put it together. And my needle is going through several layers of material and some thread, some stitches. So it's a little bit hard to get it where I get it to go through. One more here, and that should be good. I'm going to go up and immediately down so that I can knot this off. There we go. Not a pretty stitch. Doesn't even look close to pretty, but it's only there as a placeholder. Much like the basting I would be doing, that's all that's there for. You know, I just suddenly had the realization that if I start stitching nope, can't do it. I was going to say I could use this thread to stitch on the skull, but I put it in the wrong spot, and there's just no way I could get it to line up after that. Okay, let's see. Now, here's what we're working on. We're just going to be putting the skull on. And after I'm done, I will hand embroider the eyes. And I will put a safety eye in for his eye. But I'll have to know where the skull goes before I do that. Normally what I might do is actually hand embroider the parts of the eye, the parts of the skull first. But I think time allowing, we're going to be in a situation where it's going to go back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and just do it in this order. Oh, got to make sure I don't cut my ear. There we go. So all I did was just cut a piece off here. This should be enough for me to be able to tell where it's going to go. Once again, I want to make sure that the fur goes backwards. So if I do here, I can actually draw this directly on. And then I will just cut that out. This is just an approximation, just enough for me to kind of get started. And then I'll lay it across the top. We'll see how it looks. I am also aware that what I'm about to do is, it's nearly applique. But the difference is that with applique, you would use like an embroidery stitch all along the edge to hold one piece onto the other. In this case, since I'm hand stitching, I'm going to be losing a fair amount of the top piece because it's going to be folding under with each stitch. So let's see, do I think that's too big? I think I can get just a little bit more shape in this. So let's go ahead and little bit more curve. A little bit more curve. I think that once that is attached, that should be good. Do your thumb size. You know, I thought about the same thing, but here's what happens. When I sew that edge in, I'm going to lose some. So I have to make it just a teeny bit bigger. And a good thing is that as I'm hand stitching, I can always fold in more. So let's say that it normally folds in like this. If I realize I need it more, I can just tuck more and more in. So making it a little bit bigger will help out. But you're right. Thumb size is almost exactly what I'm going for. You can see that's what my intention is. So now it's just going to be a case of stitching it in with that exact shape that I want. I think that normally I would use a white thread, but I think that if I show you with a black thread, that will actually help out quite a bit so you can see what I'm doing, since it won't disappear quite as much. Now, the problem is, where do I got to start at the front. There's no real option for that. So, I'm trying to make this as small of a stitch as I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck it in between the two. Oh, I just realized that's not going to be enough. That barely goes around in general. And I have to, since I'm not just straight stitching it, it actually has to be almost 2 times, if not 3 times as long as what I am sewing. So that's not going to be enough, and I'm not going to want to have to start over on it. So let's get a really long piece. Now what I'm going to be doing is, I'm not even sure, I know there's got to be a name for it. Since I'm absolutely sure I didn't invent this concept, but since I'm all self-taught, I have no clue what the technical names for most things that I do is. But I am going to be basically doing a ladder stitch, a closing stitch, pretty much the same thing I would be doing if I was connecting an arm or closing up the back of the plush. And I'm going to be using that same method to attach this piece directly on top. Okay, so I have to do a few different things. Let me get that out of the way. To begin with, I have to make sure that I get it started where I want it. So let's go ahead and instead of starting on the white, where we have to cut a hole, basically risk changing the shape of it, I'm going to go ahead and start just a little bit in on the head itself. I'm going to tuck my needle between my 2 pieces of thread. That way it holds it in place just long enough for me to get started. You can see I can pull on it pretty tightly. And now I can line this up and bring it up through. I'm going to bring it as close to the edge as I can. Now, depending on the material you use, if you're using a cotton material, you probably can't do something like this. You see how close to the edge I am? This material is very different from cotton because it doesn't have the same weave. But if you try to do that on a piece of cotton, you're very likely to wind up just tearing right through it. So now I'm going to do essentially a ladder stitch, just a very shallow stitch directly across from where that started. It's all caught up on the rest of my plush here. And what it's going to wind up looking like is this. You're going to want it to sew so that the beginning is essentially this setup. Okay, so when I come back, I'm again going to be really close to the edge, do a really shallow stitch, and pull it. And you can see that it actually lines up perfectly as though I was sewing it face to face. And the relevance to that is it lets you know that you're making a line of stitches right here so that it winds up folding over like this. And I'm just going to do my very best to make a nice solid straight line. Just enough so you can see what I'm talking about. And see right here. You do one more stitch on the inside and you'll be able to see the line. See, right there. Now, the reason I say that is because what you could technically do, depending on how well you can see what you're working on, is you can actually do a back stitch on this. Enough that where it makes it a little bit more secure. You can tighten it up. Just got to get it through all the pieces of material that are here. And if you wanted, you could just start your stitch this format. Now, here's where the problem with that comes in. Now I've got to sew up this, but also along this. So because I can't see that very well, I'm actually just going to continue doing what I normally would. Get this. Oops. Got a little twisted line there. Come on. Sometimes when the thread gets twisted or spins, it starts to try and knot up. And literally the only thing you can do is try over and over again. Just pull it and loosen it and tighten it. So now that I've got the starting point right here, you can see where it folds under. You can see roughly what I'm going to be talking about with the rest of this. I'm just going to keep on sewing this way. Get some of my material out, my tools out of the way. Back. And you'll see that it pulls and tucks in the previous piece as you go. And you're going to want to keep these as shallow as you can because it's so small that there's not really a whole lot of wiggle room for getting the shape you want, a secure stitch, getting it to tuck under. All those little things are just kind of adding up in this exact spot. So I'm having to manually tuck it in between stitches so that when I pull it tight, it stays underneath. Otherwise, what will happen is you're going to get these little edges that poke out and do something. I can't really tell. Yeah, you'll get the edge that pokes out and it just won't look as clean, won't look as nice. I've done this to do like tattoos for my plushes or like birthmarks or different patterns of material sometimes. And on a bigger version, I could actually completely cut out these two shapes and then sew them together with a machine. But this is so small, there was just no chance of something like that happening. So now, with each stitch, I am trying to do both, make sure the white stays tucked in and keeps the shape of the skull as I go. You can see right here, I've got that little tuck in, that little edge where the mouth would lead. Now I got to start working on rounding it out a little bit. Again, these are not super difficult. This is a little bit more time consuming because of how small it is, but it does give you the options for adding a little bit of intricacy or detail to what you're working on. And you can see on the inside right here, that stitch. I would love to be able to find the way to do this where I can do a back stitch that is much stronger, because if something were to happen and part of this comes out, the whole thing's just coming right out. And I know that, but I don't know how to adjust for that. And maybe that's because I haven't done the proper amount of research on how to sew. Maybe it's because this is something people don't do because it's not professional. It's really kind of hard for me to say. A lot of it is guesswork. A lot of it is me trying to figure out these details. But since I love the way it looks whenever it's done right, I just kind of hope for the best and do the best that I can with it. Again, making sure that I fold under each time. And you can see right there, I've got that nice little rounded shape. And it's secured to the head. Let's see, if I do this under the ear, I think what I'm going to have to do is poke all the way through the ear. Pull tight. And then go separately into the head and then back up through the ear. And that's just because there's so many layers that I'm working on right here. And because I actually want it to be attached to the head, I don't want the ears to stay floppy and pull the top of the skull up. You can see all the thread is getting caught up on everything. And I don't know if there is a way that people usually use to avoid that happening. It's just something that I've gotten used to being part of the process. Now I do have to make sure I keep it pretty centered because I want it to be in a very specific place on the head. But it looks like it's coming together fairly well. Once again, all the way through the ear, through the head, and then back through the ear again. And what that's going to do is it's also going to keep the ear down, which again, I didn't mind it being floppy, but in this circumstance, I think that's just the best option for keeping the whole look and feel of it solid. Let me go ahead and put this up right here. Oops. Come on, you could do it. Up right there. That's what we're working on. So anybody who happens to be stopping by and kind of curious as to what it is. Today, I seem to be doing kind of bad at looking at my phone because it's so small and so tiny. My focus is kind of all in one spot. So if anybody's been saying anything, please let me know. Thank you so much, Butterfly. I really appreciate that. Basically, trying to do a cute version of something is hit and miss because what I think is cute might just be dumb to somebody else. But if there's anybody who has sent me a message on here and I did not see it, I promise I am not trying to be rude. I'm just hand stitching. I'm working really small, so it's a little bit harder to see the messages on my phone. But feel free to repeat yourself. Cat Bee is in here. Cat Bee has been with me for a long time. They know a lot about me, so they might be able to answer some questions. But also, feel free to message me directly. I am very happy to answer any and all messages. I do it all day. Sometimes I fall a little bit behind, but I always get to everybody eventually. So if there's something that I missed, please feel free to message me or repeat. It's pretty slow chat today. I reported someone. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm totally okay with a slow chat, and I really appreciate you reporting someone for me. I haven't been watching, so I haven't seen I'm blessing 5 people that message me bull crap. Usually I try and pass that off anyways. Oh, see, we got a nice, oops, whoa. Sorry, I see what you're saying by light. I wasn't looking at the time. You can see I've got that skull shape taking place. I'm rounding it out. It's making up to the top. Just a few stitches at a time, which is a bit of a process, yes. But like I said, all I'm doing is just tucking and sewing and tucking and sewing. But I also have so much more control over what I'm doing that it makes it feel a little bit more secure that it's making what I want it to make. I saw your message, Cat Bee, about light, but I didn't process it. And then a few seconds later, I looked at the camera and it was like lens flare. And all I could think was, Aziz, light! And I'm kind of curious as to who knows what I'm talking about now. Or if I'm just kind of referencing how old I am. All right. See, that's coming together really well. I think that's making a great skull shape on here. There are a few extra steps that I'm having to take, but that is totally okay. If I were making this bigger, I would have all these different steps I would be taking anyways. Hey, have you figured out the sewing pattern for a custom that I asked you about? I'm not sure. Which one was it? I may have already made a pattern for it and not digitized the pattern, made instructions yet, but I'm not sure. I was mentioning a little bit earlier that the reason I'm doing a small version of this right now is because I'm a little bit behind, and I'm very sorry. I'm really bad with names. So could you remind me? The mouse, it was Floopy. Was it the one that had the flower on its head? Or was it the one that's a custom clown mouse with that name? The mouse, it was Floopy. I'm trying to remember something like that. My pen. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, and I'm very sorry. I promise. I am constantly working through my orders as well. I just shipped off some more today. So even though I feel like I'm behind on other things, I am always working on something. Hey, he has bunny slippers. I am drawing a complete blank. If I've got it in my notes, is it a request like you sent an order in or a request that we talked about? And I mean that, and I genuinely mean that I am going to be getting to other requests as well. But if it's something that I have got an order for, then I might have a better recollection of it. Message you on here on TikTok. I will double check. Send me another message if you would, pretty please. I will double check and see, because I have done a couple things that were custom requests just because I want to do stuff that people are interested in. But It's not familiar, and I'm just being honest with you. And I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to ignore you or I have completely failed you. Even if I have, I don't want it to look like I'm doing it on purpose. I certainly can do that. Thank you so much. And again, I'm so sorry that I don't remember off the top of my head. I promise it's not because I don't care. It's because there's a whole lot happening sometimes. We don't have Chip barking. We don't have Boyd chirping in the background. I don't have my son yelling at me, but that's pretty much most of my days under most circumstances. So I apologize, Dark Under Rose. Is it Under Rose? Angel Rose. Dang, I read that real quick and wrong. One of the things that I would love to be able to do is, I think that it's going to be easier once my son starts school, is I'd love to have like a day of the week that all I do is make something that someone requested but hasn't purchased. You know, it's not an order. It's not a custom order that someone's paid for, but I want to do stuff that you guys have fans have mentioned that you'd like to see. It's so hard to find the time to do everything for it. And I'm doing my very best every day to not feel like I'm failing everybody completely. So when I get some more time, that's going to be one of the first things I do. Right now, I am also working on finishing up a free giveaway. I have one of my mice, which is one of these guys. He does not have a hat or a collar, but he's got a magnet in his hand and on his head. And what I'm going to do is make several hats and a couple things that he can hold, because what I want to do is, as a giveaway for everyone being so kind and following me, and I've got almost 6,000 followers now, and I just want to do something as a little bit of a giveaway and a little bit of a thank you to everybody who's been so kind and generous to me about that. So I'm falling behind. I'm working hard. I'm trying to figure out timing, but I am trying. I promise on everything that I can. And I hope that nobody gets too mad at me. I do understand that sometimes that's fair. It's definitely okay for you to get mad at someone who's fallen behind. But I am doing my best to keep people from feeling like I'm neglecting them on purpose. And I'm trying to add just a little bit extra curve onto the skull here. Doing a little bit of extra tucking, went back a stitch. Just trying to get just a little bit more shape while tucking everything else in. There we go. Good. I think that recovered it. I think that gave it that shape that I was looking for. Just a couple more stitches is all that is left.
What are you making?
I'm making this guy right here, but I'm making a tiny version of him. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you like it. Hopefully you like it in the end.
I hold his feet.
You hold the feet.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have any feet yet. See? He's just a body.
Well, yes.
I'll fix it though. Don't worry.
Big one.
If you really want me to make a big one, I definitely will.
No, tiny is big.
Tiny is big.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, this is the teeny tiny version. This is stage 1 or basic or something like that. I can't remember the exact word for it. I think basic is the word we're looking for.
I ate teeny tiny little bit.
Yeah, teeny tiny little bit.
I ate teeny tiny.
You hate the teeny tiny?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Do you speak this teeny tiny bit?
Yeah, teeny tiny big on that one. Okay. This is my son, and this is who I'm actually giving each of my first ones to. And he's getting quite a collection of tiny little...
I ate tiny.
Well, not tiny. A collection of plushes because of this Monday nights. I hope you have a spectacular day, and I will go message you right now here on TikTok. Thank you so much, Dart. He's the prototype. He is indeed the tester. And if he's happy, then that's a win. You hate tiny? No, yes or no? It sounds like you're saying I hate tiny. Are you saying I have tiny?
This is
See,
big.
look.
It's like this ball print.
Yeah, well, I'll do the paw prints here in a minute. All kinds of little extra fuzz. Now what I'm going to actually do, though, is I'm going to put the stitches on here.
Eyes.
Yeah. Oh, he does need eyes, doesn't he? Well, let's see what size eyes we should pick. Since you're right here, let's go ahead and look and see. I think teeny tiny, let me see, teeny tiny little eyes.
It's my head.
Yeah? Do we think that size? Or do you want to go just a little little bit bigger with that size. Go ahead. You think that's too big, silly. Do you think it's too big?
Like
Right, you got to move your hand just a little bit. You think so? You have the time to message me back. I will be patient. I will message you back shortly after I get off live, Angel. But what size do do you think you want the eyes to be that big? I think if we did small eyes, that would be cute.
Tiny is small.
Yeah, like this size, like right here. See?
Tiny is small. Big is small.
Big and small.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm definitely gonna do one size eye for this guy.
No, it's creature one.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Let me see here. Here's what we're gonna do. Back up just a little bit.
Big one.
I'm gonna go ahead and poke a hole where I'm gonna put the eye. And then we're going to put that in there and see what we think. I use an awl now. I used to actually use my seam ripper to put a hole in it.
Now?
One day while I was on live, somebody told me that that could actually tear your fabric. And that if you use an awl, it'll move the fabric, move the threads without tearing it. So it's better for your plush if you do this. So now I just use an awl. My sister just had twin girls, and my goal is to make a bunch of little plushes for them. Thank you so very much, Charlie. If you have any questions and if you think that I can help, message me anytime. I kind of started doing this because my kid sister was having a baby, and it was one of those things that I thought the same thing for. I could do all kinds of little plushes and different things. And now that I've got my son, I've gotten to the point where I'm a lot better at it. Man, this is just not wanting to work with me. I know that there's a hole right here. I just made it. Come on. And what's happening is because it's such a small area, I can't really right side it out to get to what I'm needing. Dang it. I don't want to have to try and figure out how to get the right side out. Or the inside out. Eek. Come on, just get in there so I can see what you look like. This is crazy. I've not had this much trouble getting an eye in forever. Just got to get it right in that hole. And not only that, but once I get it in, I'm still going to have to do the whole process of getting the safety eye, the back of it on. Well, I guess what I'm just going to have to do is put a hole on both sides. And then take the fluff out. And put that in. All right. Getting that fluff was already annoying. Now that I've also sewn on a couple pieces, it's going to make it even harder to do. Come on. I think that once I get the eyes in, I will probably go ahead and do the embroidery for the skull part. Place to get your plush fabric. I have a lot of trouble finding it. Honestly, I've got a local store, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's a chain store, but it's the only one I have locally. And it's called Minky, M-I-N-K-Y. Now, when it comes down to it, like, for example, this purple, I order it online, Butterfly. I don't have a specific place that I order from, so I don't have one that I can say would be the best, but I know there are a lot of different sources. What you might consider doing is seeing if there's one that's local to you. There might be one, depending on where you live, that's within state or something like that, and you might be able to call and talk to them directly. I don't have anybody close enough to me like that, as far as I'm aware. Oklahoma City has some places that might have something, but I don't make it up to Oklahoma City very often. I used to when I was doing a lot of art shows, but I haven't been doing that in a while. So I'm kind of left with what I can find, basically just searching online. And I'm sorry I don't have any other information for that. I will start paying more attention to it so I can actually have some kind of regular place that I order from. Because that would be helpful. It would be helpful to know, hey, these people are trustworthy. I can pass that name on and be okay. All right, so here's the eye. It's basically all the way in there. It's tucked right in underneath that skull. Do we think that that's a good size, or should I go a little bit bigger? I used to get it at Joann's, but they closed. Yeah, I used to do the same thing. The other two hobby places, one of them has not got a good reputation because they are crappy to their employees. They are stealing artifacts. They upcharge. They do all kinds of unsavory things. And then the other one I don't know much about. So I know you can find that and you can order from their sites. And I know that it works, and I know that that's the size that I would get. But I can't, I just don't have any information for anybody else that I would use. And I'm very sorry about that. I will start paying attention to it because you're not the first person that's asked me that. And I think it would be very relevant to be able to say, yes, these people are reliable. All right, let's go ahead. And you know what? I just realized I had asked if you guys thought that was an okay size for the eyes. I still think that's a good size, but should I go bigger? Go ahead and try and adjust my light just a little bit here. That's so fair. I'm bad at tracking who I buy from. So what I tend to do is maybe like return to the Amazon or whatever and then buy again. Maybe from that I can get you some information. But even that was just potluck on who I ordered from to begin with. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure I got two of the same size eye. Yep, there it is. Did I? Oh, no, I didn't. Let me go ahead and pull this out. I'm going to make sure and secure this eye first. All right, so safety eyes are built, shaped much like a screw. And then what you do is you fit a washer onto the back here instead of showing there. And that's what holds it in place. So you've got that. And you slide the washer over and it holds on the ridges. You can see it right there. Now that's going to hold it in place just fine. But I have seen some people melt this black part down, maybe like a lighter and a spoon or something like that. I just do not like the idea of smelling the plastic. So to avoid there being a sharp point on the inside of my plush, which I don't want someone to accidentally squeeze and hurt themselves on, I cut it off. But make sure you don't cut it too short. If you cut it too short, you're going to cut off the ridge that it's holding in place, and all it's going to do is slide right off. As you can see, I've got that whole ridge still in place. Then you just push your eye up back, or your plush back in shape, and there you go. I do the exact same thing, especially in tiny heads. If it's something that someone could squeeze or step on, and then that sharp end poke them, I do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. Especially since I imagine kids with these things, and I don't want someone to get hurt on that at all. I don't know where my liability lies, but I don't, like, in my heart, I don't want that to happen. Okay, I know I've got a hole there. I'm going to have to try and find it. There it is. Now that I've got my finger on the inside, I should be able to, yep, there we go. And sorry, I'm really close to the camera because I'm like looking over the camera. Let's just get that started. Then I'll get all the other pieces of fabric out of the way. And once again, cut the end off. It's a real simple process. Another thing you have to be careful of, if you didn't see, that shot right off. Usually I put that into a trash can when I clip it. And honestly, I just wasn't thinking about it right there. Let me go ahead and push everything around. I don't know what it's caught on, but for something's caught that eye. That's weird. Like, I've never had an eye set in there like that, so that was kind of strange. Like maybe it just caught one of the seams or something like that. That actually looks super like a puppy, doesn't it? I mean, it's just a white top on the head and the ears and everything, but that really does look like a puppy in this way. Oh, can I see the mouses? Yes, you definitely can. First off, I've got these unfinished mices, but I do have this guy right here. This guy's name is Plo. He is a gothic comedian. He knows one joke, which I wrote for him. And I made him for an upcoming show. Little bells even ring. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I'm trying to find where the mic's at. I think the mic's over here. Oh, I think I actually have yours right here. Yes, I think I can. Nope, I do not have yours, but I will go get it. Give me one moment. I'm going to go get the mouse that Cat B has got, and I'll be right back. Not me. All right, here we go. Had to go get that real quick. This is the mouse that I made on Weird Wednesday. This mouse actually is a headless mouse. I put a magnet in the body and a magnet in the head so that you can put the head on, but also you can put the jack-o'-lantern head on him. I'm trying to adjust the light to make it a little bit easier to see. It's kind of hard. I can't tell, maybe it's too bright. Maybe I just need to turn that light off. But I also put a key ring so that you can carry the jack-o'-lantern with you. Yes, the key ring will hold on the headless body. But because this was a prototype and a test, that magnet is not quite strong enough. You can see it'll come off if you're not super careful. So you can't really wear it like a charm without the risk of losing its head. But if you were to walk around with a headless mouse, it'd be kind of funny, especially if you had like this on your bag and this on your keys. Someone's like, what is that? Oh, it's the headless horseman. You could just kind of put one on top of the other. And this is just the start of me trying to figure out the magnets. But this turned out to be a lot of fun. I put him on a cape. We gave him a fancy hat. I just realized any accessory could be magnetic. Yes, exactly. So I'm going to be making the giveaway mouse that I have is going to have a magnet on the top of his head, and I'm going to be putting magnets into the hats. So it's going to have a series of different hats that you can put on it. I also put a magnet in the hand, and I'm going to find different accessories that the mouse can carry around as well. So there are so many different things you can do with this. No idea how I sent that at my, that's kind of funny. I saw that happen. I just wasn't sure. But this was just another thing that I had started on. This is Cat Bees. I made this live on my Wednesday. I do Weird Wednesday. I previously had done some, a Cthulhu. And then I just finished the jumping mouse from Coraline, which is in the other room. I should have brought that with me. I just didn't think about it. This week, I haven't come up with a full-on plan. I might do another keychain size thing because the last one I did was small. Or sorry, the last new thing I did was a big one. It was the Cthulhu. But if I do another keychain, that I could do a lot of different things for that. I made a tiny Mothman baby keychain, but I haven't figured out a full-on plan yet. I'm going to try and come up with something, and we're going to get some prototypes made. Maybe that's going to be the process, because when I make something on Wednesdays, I try to do that as a very different kind of finished product. Sometimes it starts with a sketch, and then we spend a few days where we're just making prototypes to try and get the right shape. Sometimes, depending on circumstances, like when I made the Cthulhu, I actually already had a body made that was going to work perfectly. I had made it for a different project. So I just reused the body. I used something that I had already done for the head. We did make brand new wings live. Like everybody helped me pick what kind of wings I was going to make. And we won it with some awesome wings that wound up having holes in them. And then I put an armature in them. So there's a lot of different process for how I do Wednesdays. But on Weird Wednesday, I'm taking requests if there's horror ideas or scary movies or just creepy things that you can think of. Like one of the ideas I had was making creepy versions of these guys. Of course, still keeping in mind that I can't say what they are. I just have to basically make a unique version of one inspired by something. So I might do one of those because we had talked about that really early on, but all these other great ideas popped up that everybody seemed to like. Yes, ours giveaway mouse. Yes, I'm going to be having the giveaway mouse that will have the magnets. Let's see, I think someone asked, do you still have the blue and purple one? Yes, I do. That is exactly what Cappy was referring to. That is going to be the giveaway mouse. However, I can make a custom version doing the same thing as well. It doesn't have to be blue and purple. It can be pink and purple. It can be, I even have a pink glittery. So if you like the glittery, but you want a different color, I have options for that as well. Let's see if I can get this together just enough. I think what's going to happen is I will probably work on what I'm going to do with the legs at a later time, but I'm really happy with how that head turned out. I was really afraid that the shape of the jaw was going to be messed up because I didn't have a full-on plan for the bottom of it. But I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. I might even do some adjustments for the legs. I already had them as really nubby legs, but what I may wind up doing is just doing the cuffs so that he's just kind of standing on the little rounded cuffs. But I'm going to do the embroidery on the skull here. I think that that's where I'm going to end the day at, just so you know. Kind of give an estimation for how much time we're going to be on today in case you are interested in sticking around to see what we see. But I'm very happy with the way that this body turned out. The ears turned out just cute enough, just floppy enough. The shape of the head turned out to look like a puppy. The eye size turned out to be pretty decent. If I were to go bigger with the eyes, I think that would still work. So that's definitely an option. And then I know that I didn't sew in the metal loop to make it a keychain, but that's just because when I do the first versions, I tend to not do that kind of stuff because I don't know exactly where the best place for it's going to be. But now I know that if I put it at the back of the head, that would be perfect. And then the weight of it will make it hang like this. On my mice, the downside to having the keyring right here is I can't put it high enough. There's no space on the head that would allow me to also make hats, but it's top heavy, so it kind of looks like it's flying. Let me show you roughly what I'm talking about here. Whenever it hangs like this. Which isn't the worst thing in the world. It just doesn't hang quite like I would like it to hang. I would love it to hang like this. The tails, yeah, I started off with 3 colors of tail. And then I realized that I can get dye and make the white ones whatever color I could find. So I'm having so much fun coloring these. A Steamboat Willie Mouse would be so cool. Also, since it's a public domain, you know what? That's funny. I hadn't thought about something as far as like public domain for copyrighted images. That could be a lot of fun. Could put some pellets on the bottom. I've actually sewn on star beads. And if I can, whenever I find buttons and different things that match the theme, I put that in there and then tie the knot. And it's a lot of fun to be able to customize them that way. There's so many little things that you can do at so many different times. If you go through my feed, you'll see I've done a whole lot of random stuff. And by the way, Butterfly, I know you make them at home. If you see something that I've done and you're curious how I've done it, feel free to ask. I'm not going to gatekeep any of that. I will do my very best to help you make your own custom versions of any type that you want at home. All right, so we've got that refilled. What were we going to do? Oh, that's right. We're going to do the embroidery for the mouth. Let's see. That's not going to work because, unfortunately, I have to double up the thread, and that also means that it's not going to be long enough. So, I am not the best at embroidery, but I am learning. I have found ways to do the nose that makes me feel happy. I have done, let's see, I did the smiley face for the jack-o'-lantern here. And I feel like that looks cute and works. It's probably not as thick as I would have preferred, but at the same time, it looks really cute. So I am definitely getting better. I'm figuring out different things, and every now and then I'll see and research some new steps on how to do different types of embroidery. But the relevance is if you see something that I am doing that is wrong or the hard way or anything like that, always feel free to tell me because I definitely don't mind learning. I've learned a lot of different things just doing these lives where somebody has popped in and told me the name of something, given me a suggestion on the proper way to do something, all kinds of things. So it's a lot of fun for me to learn new stuff. And I don't know if it's one of those conditional things where I sometimes feel like I'm not doing good enough if I don't learn something new, because every now and then I'll just try and find a new hobby. I've been working on sign language for 4 years, not too hardcore. I learned how to wind whistle one day, just kind of laying in bed, decided I wanted to look it up. You have a new idea. What's your new idea? I'm all ears. I am trying to let me get that muted. I'm trying to slide this in between a couple stitches so I can actually get the knot on the inside. There we go. That should be good. Yep, there we go. Excellent. Now, I'm going to do a back stitch to get the shape that I'm looking for. And hope that I'm doing just enough space. I'm going to try and get it between these as well. Again, this is all kind of guesswork based on a few things that I have looked at. I could probably find some actual embroidery thread. And I know that I've got some somewhere in the house that I've used for stuff, but I don't know enough about how that's used. But I think that's actually doing roughly what I need. I'm going to go ahead and double it up. It's already doubled, but I'm going to redouble the double. Try and get that as shallow as I can and as close to it as I can. I might even circle around. I think what I will do right next to it here. Again, this is kind of difficult because I don't really know. I'm just doing what I think is going to work and hoping for the best. And all I really need is a straight line. So you'd think that that would be easy, but again, guesswork is what it is. So that's not too bad. It's something that I'll have to consider doing a different method for later. This reminds me of some cute little plushes we sold at Spirit Halloween. That would be right up the alley of exactly what I'm trying to aim for here. Spirit Halloween plushes, cute horror plushes. People give Spirit Halloween a bad rap, but I love Spirit Halloween. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'd marry it if I could. Take that. Think I should marry it too?
Yeah, I'd marry it too.
All right, if I've done this at all right, I should be able to stick one here and then come back up on the other side. I'm just going to pull all the strings tight. Sometimes when it gets uneven, one of the strings will decide it doesn't want to go in. But I think that that's going to do roughly what we want. Working there is like summer camp for goth adults, I imagine. And I also imagine you got to put it with a lot of like weirdos too. And I'm not talking like the fun weirdos, but the weirdos that don't realize it's not okay to do that stuff in public. Looks like I lost my stitch. Where did it go? One of the downsides to trying embroidery with this minky material is that because it's got such a fuzz to it, it's easy to lose where the thread is at, which also means you have to go way more than you might otherwise.
Wow.
Let me try I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and wrap around. tight, and then stitch it. I imagine that somebody who does embroidery on a regular basis is watching me stumble through this and just laughing their head off because it's such a simple thing just to make a line, and somehow I'm probably making it like 3 times as difficult as it needs to be. Oops, get this out here. Come on, there we go. It's coming through. It's just that I got to go way thicker. Very chill. Well, that's cool. I mean, even with the store being chill, though, it's not always about the staff, the managers. Sometimes it really is just all about the people that come through. And if you're in a good enough area, I'll bet you've got a lot of fun that happens. But I also, like I said, I imagine there's a whole lot of annoying chaos that occasionally happens in a store like that. I don't want to use the word weebs in a negative way, but at the same time, that's pretty close to what I'm talking about. Just trying to get a little bit of shape in here. Again, just all I'm doing is filling space just to see how it lands. Doing the eyes, I'm not even sure how I'm going to do the eyes. Like I could do the same thing I did when I attached the skull, but I'm not sure that that's going to do what I want it to do at all. And now I've got a whole bunch of fuzz trapped inside of this, which sometimes I can trim up. Sometimes I cannot. And it really looks like I have messed this one up pretty bad. Looks like somewhere along the way I just made it too thick. I'm trying to pull it really tight to see if I can like correct it. But I'm really not sure what's going to happen here. When I did the jack-o'-lantern smile, I wound up doing the whole smile and then just undoing it and starting over. So that's got a thick line, but I'm not sure it looks like a line. Just kind of looks like a spot to me. So let's try and extend it a little bit. Okay, that's definitely a line now, but it is a little bit thick. So maybe I should just go ahead and try and thicken up the other side. I don't know if I'm going to be making this better or worse as I go. And if I have to, I'm just going to undo the whole thing and start all over since it's just one piece. I am not opposed to scrapping my work, but it's so hard for me to know when I need to sometimes. Sometimes it's like, all right, that looks like it's going good. And then I'll finish like, no, that's crap. That was always crap. It's crap from the beginning, crap in the end. It's crappity crap. Let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of focusing on it at the same time as trying to be talkative about what I'm doing. It's just not super easy to kind of go between the two things. And it seems like what I would be better off have done is instead of backstitching, just doing a complete loop over and over again. See, now I actually have 2 lines. I think that looks way better already. All right, now I've got to tie it off, though. I'm going to try and tie it off inside. So you get that. Got off the ear. No, don't ruin it. Dang it. Whatever I just did really just changed the entire shape of the whole thing. All right. Undoing the whole thing. I'm just going to undo it. I wonder, I'm sending you a video I saved, may help the lines, see if it works, the line work. I don't know. It might help. All right. Excellent. Hey, Foxy. All right. So I think that what I just figured out, anyways, will be helpful. But now I've got to undo all of this just to get that, just to try it. Scissors and scissors. Let me get my needle put away so I don't lose it. This is probably one of the most aggravating things is since I haven't figured out embroidery and yet I've done it so many times, it's annoying because I would have figured that by this point in time, I would have a much better idea as to how to do this. And every time I think I've figured something out, I either am wrong or I forget what I did, which is also a different type of annoying. I got to tear this carefully. All I'm trying to do is tear the thread, but I have to make sure that I don't accidentally tear my white material as well. And because the fuzz is so thick, sometimes it's just hard to tell. But I think what I'm going to do this time is instead of doing back stitches and trying to get like a small millimeter per stitch, what I'm going to do is from here to here, I'm just going to do a big loop several times. And I think that that'll actually help out quite a bit. And it's not too far off from what would happen if I were machine sewing a little bit of embroidery, because all it does is left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. But right now, it's going to be a case of, can I do this, undo this, without ruining the entire effort that I made to put that skull in there like I did. So I'm just trying to find the little ends. This does show a good sign for anytime I have to do a back stitch. Yeah, loops are good for faces. They're so easy to control. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I kind of part the fur to leave a neat line. I try, but this fur is somewhere between fine and short. So it moves a lot because it's how fine it is. And then it's so short that it's so hard. What I tend to do is I'll use my thumb to pull it one side or the other. And then afterwards, I might even trim up the fur so that it reveals the thread a little bit better, which was part of my plan here. I just didn't make it that far. Ay, caramba, this is such an annoying process. And in the future, if I do the embroidery part first, I don't have to worry about that. But I really wasn't sure where everything was going to be sitting, so I couldn't even start by doing that this time. And since it's all just a bunch of loops, but they're also so poorly sewn, I can't even tell what is loose and what isn't. So I'm trying not to pull on the white material too hard. Dang it, I hate when this happens. And this feels like such a drag on the show, too. Like, everything's going together really well. Everything's moving pretty smoothly. The whip stitch. I will have to look into that. Because what I'm kind of thinking is that once this is all pulled out, the idea that I had just from trying here will actually do what I need it to do. And I'm sure there's a name for what I'm referring to. It might even be exactly what you're talking about. But I'm having trouble just seeing where the black thread is. I would have thought that the amount that I've cut would be enough. But I think there's some spots that I had wrapped the thread around itself. So that's probably what's giving me part of my problem right now. Dang it, I hate this so much. It's enough for me to say, you know what, I'll do this off camera. I can't imagine there being much joy in seeing that other people have the same problems that you might have. But there is a little bit of comfort in knowing if you make a mistake like this, that you're not the only one. Trying to correct Yep. What was the question? Are you sure we can try and answer? Let's see. Never mind. I got a question about the Coraline mouse. Oh yeah. Do feel free to ask. My whole floor is covered in fuzz. I've got a concrete floor that is completely covered in fuzz, Butterfly. But Freaky Kid, feel free to ask your question. I will do my best to look, but also Cat B may have an answer for you, or somebody else might as well. So do feel free to ask, or you can send me a message if you don't want to ask in public. That is also totally okay. I will get back to you pretty much right after this live is done. But don't be shy, and if you are shy, that's also okay. I've got these little knots that I'm just trying to get a piece of. And I'm not even sure that they're the only things that are holding it in place. Some of these spots, I can't even see if there's a knot there. It just looks like black fuzz now. Which, if the fuzz had been in a straight line, I'd have been like, all right, may not have been how I intended to get there, but I'm there. But no. You think it'd be easy to sew a straight line, but no. In case you're wondering, yes, that was a Ninja Turtle quote that was twisted. Even a moron could find a place down here, but no. Just a few more stitches. I'm absolutely sure of it. I think we have reached the point where my aggravation is going to make me just say, you know what? I'm going to finish this later. I don't need to be upset at anything. You need to find my Zen place. And then I'll probably still spend like 20 minutes after getting off trying to get it fixed. At least a lot of these knots are coming out already. There's just a couple spots that are really just, it's like the little bit poking through. Just doesn't realize it's cut loose. There we go. There we go. Getting some of that coming out now. I just have to get a hold of the black stuff. I have to get a hold of the black stuff without pulling the white stuff. It's pretty darn close. And I can't even use like tweezers to get it out. I don't have tweezers the right size. At least not that I know of. So very close.
Come here.
Are you telling me to come here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on something, buddy.
What's that?
I'm undoing a mistake that I made.
Papa, come up.
I can't, baby. I'm really sorry.
Well, I asked come up.
No, I can't right now.
I asked come up.
I know you asked. And I said no.
I said yeah.
Stop pulling on my arm. You're going to make me hurt myself.
I said yeah.
Well, I say no. And since it is my body, I will do what I want, and I want to not go.
I show you.
Almost.
I come show you.
I know, and I'll come look at it after I'm done, but right now I really can't. And unfortunately, you have to work on some of that patience just a little bit. Okay, time for you to go.
No.
Yes, you're going to keep yelling like that, and that is not okay. You can show mommy, you can ask mommy, you can show me later. I think that is about as close as we're going to get. There's one strand here that I think might be the knot. Let's see if I can't get that undone. We're just going to try and leave that and see what happens. All right, let's rethread this real quick. Let's see if I can at least get the teeth in there. I saw it and fell in love with it. They're adorable. Thank you. Let's see. Maybe where? Are you selling them? Also, do you maybe have a pattern? I wasn't sure how to ask. First off, it's totally okay to just straight up ask any questions. Anybody who's watching this, if you have any questions, ask me. I promise. And if you're going to make fun of me, also okay. I'm not going to get offended. I'm pretty zen. I'm pretty chill about that. So if you have something that you think that I'm doing wrong, feel free to let me know. Now, Freaky Kid, not only can you order through me directly, yep, you can send me a direct message, but I also do have an Etsy. So I can email you the pattern for my mice. I do have patterns made for everything I make, but I haven't digitized all the patterns. So if there's something you're specifically interested in that I have made, please let me know. I do have an Etsy where you can order the pattern from as well, if that makes you feel more secure. I know that sometimes people feel more secure by ordering through a secure site like that. And it's the same for customs. If you want a custom, you can order through Etsy. I haven't got all my stuff listed, but that's because I have a queue list right now. And I don't want to put too many things on Etsy that I wind up falling behind. And I am going to be working on building a Mayhem marketplace very soon. I already applied. With any luck, I will be on there pretty soon. And now let's see if I can't get this tooth to look like I want it to look. Make this a lot simpler. I'm just going to do a straight stitch from one back to the other. And I'm going to do several of them to see if it works. Just got to get right in the same spots over and over and over again. Trying to make keep my fuzz from getting in the way. I'm also trying not to pull it too tight. Now, I know that if I pull it too tight, it'll start to squeeze it in. And that's not the shape that I want. And then I think I'm going to have to go around my stitches. No. What happened here? There we go. And I'm just going to go around it one more time. A little bit lower. I think that worked so much better already. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch to the other side, do the other set of teeth, the other tooth, the other gap, and repeat. Maybe a little bit longer. They don't have to be the same length as each other, just as long as they are straight lines. I think that it'll balance out. I got a little bit of fuzz trying to get in my way here. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and wrap around my stitches. That one turned out way better. I got some fuzz in the way though. But I think that by wrapping that stitch around like that, it helps make sure that it takes that shape. I'm going to do one more for good measure. Try and keep the fuzz from getting caught in there again. And we have the shape we need. I think that that'll work out. Now I just have to tie a knot. Try and get some of that fuzz out of the way. What I might do is trim up the fuzz. I'm also trying to get this knot tied really close. That way, when I tie it, pull it tight. Hopefully it doesn't close the gaps on it. I'm not even sure what you guys can and can't see. I just realized that I'm not particularly paying attention to the camera. Okay, got that through. Okay. Stab this right back in, and I will go ahead and try and make the eyes using the same one. The eyes are going to be equally annoying, but maybe what I can do is roughly the same loop, but just kind of shift it in a circle as I go. I'm not sure what the fuzz is going to do. I'm not even sure if I have enough material or thread here. There's a whole lot of ifs. And I really don't know if this is going to work. I may wind up having to do the same thing I did to attach the head. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to wind up having to do. So the good news is that I did not go too far with this, so I don't have much to undo. Pull those out. Pull this one tight. That should be my starting point. I should be able to pull the rest of this out. And now what I'm going to wind up doing, there we go, is instead, the way that I attach the skull here is the same thing I'm going to do to attach the eyes, but that's going to take quite some time, and I'm going to have to do that off camera. Maybe I'll finish that off tonight and make a post about it later. But at the very least, I figured out how to do the straight lines fairly well, even though I got some more practice to do. I think that those turned out pretty well. You're gonna. I probably keep doing like this as I'm sewing. Bring it in too close. Let's see here if there's anything else that I have missed. I think we got Freaky Kids Answers in there. Foxy, I'm going to work on your sketch later on today. Angel, you may have left, but I will check your message and I will see if I have already started working on yours. If I have not, I promise that when I can, I will. In fact, I'll add it to my list. I'm probably going to make a new list of like customer requests kind of things or viewer requests. I'm not sure exactly how I'll phrase it, but essentially it's going to be things that I'm going to do just because you guys want to see it. So we've got this little puppy mostly made. I will give him a nose. I might do a little embroidered thing right here. We'll figure out how I'm going to do the legs. And then when I do future versions of it, I can put a little loop on there. So if you wind up liking this, I can make it as a keychain. I do think this is where we're going to end the day at. You guys probably watched about half an hour of me trying to get all this thread out of there earlier, and I'm really sorry about that. But at the very least, I learned something on how to do this. And if I learned something, maybe I'm lucky and you guys learned something as well. You did get to see quite a few different little things that actually came together pretty nicely, and I'm very excited. I'm always happy when things don't fail, so that's a plus. I'm so glad you did, Cappy. Cappy has been coming in here pretty much since the beginning of me doing these Not Poke Mondays. And they've been here for my Weird Wednesdays. And even before I knew what I was doing, I was just kind of randomly making things. And I really appreciate you. There's been so many people, Seal, Darkness, Spaz. There's several people that have been coming in, and I really appreciate you guys making it in here. If you want to see anything, if you are just stopping by and you're curious about what else I would work on, want to see me working on something in particular, send me a message. Follow me. Tell me what you think. Comment on the videos. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. See what I could, if there's anything you need me to help you with, I will happily teach you some things as best I can. Any of that stuff. But I'm going to call tonight a night. I only found your account recently, but I found your content really inspirational craft. That's fantastic. I love to make things, and I love the idea of inspiring people to make things. So I am so glad that I've been helpful with that, Butterfly. I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm going to have a snack, and I'm going to pretty much get the kid ready for bed. You have a great night. Hopefully I'll get this finished pretty soon and get this posted. Thank you again. Bye, everybody.